Hey there, Rub-a-Dub subs, it's Black Metal Werewolf making a brand new video for this week. And this week's video idea actually comes to me by a friend who goes by Corpse Grinder's Neck on Instagram. He suggested this video idea to me, and I thought it was great. It was something I hadn't really thought about before. So I thought it would make a pretty good video. So thank you very much, and I'll put his name in the description if you want to check out his Instagram page. So once again, thank you very much. This is a great idea. So the idea that he suggested to me was what my thoughts on metal and metalheads portrayal in media is like. So when he first asked me that, I kind of thought of two different things. So I kind of categorized it. I thought of fictional media, which would be cartoons, comedies, sitcoms, dramas, stuff that's not actually based in reality, and news media, which is obviously news, stuff that's happening, current events, all that kind of stuff. So I have two very different opinions on metalhead and metal's portrayal and these different types of media. So I'll start with fictional. In fictional media, I've never really had an issue with the way metal and metalheads have been portrayed. I've always actually thought it was kind of comical. I suppose some people would take offense to it, because I know in a lot of drama TV shows or crime cop shows like that, they'll have like an episode where there'll be like a heavy metal band that turns out that they're Satanists and that they murdered somebody or several people as a sacrifice to the devil to get a record label or to make it big or all these things. So when it comes to things like that, I always thought it was just kind of funny that they just follow these silly stereotypes to get a stupid message across, or to wrap up, or to villainize these people, to make it seem like the cops are out to stop these evil Satanists. So I suppose if you're like a devout Christian, or even a Satanist, you could get offended by that, because if you're a devout Christian that likes heavy metal, then you're being grouped in with a religion that you're not a part of, or actions that you would never dream of doing. And if you're a Satanist, once again, you're being grouped in with, murder and arson and all these things. And, you could very well be a Satanist without fucking murdering and setting shit on fire. So I can understand why people will get offended by that and won't like it. But do these shows actually affect people in their everyday life? Because of, something like in CSI or a TV show like that, I've never felt that Metalhead's portrayal has ever negatively affected me in life. I've never been at work and it's like, oh, you like heavy metal? Are you a Satanist? How many people have you murdered? That has never cropped up in my life. The only time where I could say something like that has ever happened is when I was in high school and people would, think you're a devil worshiper or something like that. But once again, as soon as you're out of high school, do these social standing issues mean much to you? And I say no, that shit like that disappears pretty quickly afterwards. So once again, comical, but I never felt that it affected me negatively in my life. And then a lot of times in other TV shows, if they're going to have like a heavy metal character or something, they will dress them up very stereotypically, with the vest and the hair, the clothes, all these things that, the public instantly identifies with stereotypical metalhead. Once again, I always thought that was just kind of funny. Like in a TV show like Todd and the Book of Pure Evil, it was a comical portrayal. It was meant to be funny. It was meant to play on the stereotypes and poke fun at the genre and all these little things. But some people do get offended by it, because, there are plenty of metalheads who don't have long hair, no hair at all, or short hair, who don't wear band t-shirts all the time, who don't do the whole metal look. And that's perfectly fine. You don't have to do that to be a metalhead. But is it that big of a deal when, to be grouped in with that? Because like I said in my past video about metal stereotypes, I never felt that metal stereotypes were that offensive or that bad, unless you're a little oversensitive about the whole topic. So, but when it comes to these TV shows, let's say there's a metal character in it for one episode. Instead of doing some big dialogue or monologue or some gigantic, interesting backstory, it's just easier to give a stereotypical look than to go into some in-depth thing, If this character is only around for one episode and you have a half an hour time slot to fill, you have to be pretty quick and concise about the message you want to get across. And a lot of times, if you want to make someone look a certain way, to portray them a certain way, it's just easier to go with the quickest stereotype. If you want to, portray a Muslim person, a lot of times the easiest way is to put a turban on their head, because that's a lot of times people's view of Muslims. They have a turban or something stereotypical like that. I can understand how some people can be offended, but it's just an easy tool to use in television, because sometimes you just don't have the time to do these things if you're only filling a small time slot. It's just quick to go to a stereotype. For example, if you want to portray a child molester, you have the bald spot, the glasses, the thin mustache, and a bag of candy. You just show a picture of that, people automatically think, okay, this guy's a child molester. You have someone with long, greasy hair, a vest with patches on it, and a heavy metal t-shirt. Okay, this person's a metalhead. So, it's funny, because they're quickly identifying it with a stereotype that some people fit and a lot of people don't. Not that big of a deal to me. I also always thought that it was comical. They'd always play like a fake heavy metal song or something, and it'd just be someone going, "Rah, rah, 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 rah." And of course, everybody knows that. Well, every metalhead knows that. Not all heavy metal is just random screaming. That there is a lot of beauty behind the music, and there's a lot just more to it than rah, 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 rah. So I always just thought that was funny, not something to get offended by, just a joke. Ha ha ha! I get it. So that's fictional media. Something I can never be offended by. But then, on the other hand, there's also news media, which is supposed to be revolving around, current events and actual issues in society or crimes going on. Now, I'm not offended, I just have a bit of an issue when any group could be possibly and improperly portrayed in the media, because that could actually have some legitimately grave ramifications because of it. For example, I remember a long time ago, I was 6 or 7 years old, so this would have been late 90s, early 2000s. I was watching TV with my parents. I can't remember what we were watching, if it was like 2020 or the news or, America's Most Wanted. Anyway, there was this little blonde kid. He was like 12 years old, bowl cut, a little slice of Americana right on TV. He was giving this story about one night he was out walking his dog, and these three, goth heavy metal kids, long black hair, black clothes, your stereotypical looking metal person. These three teenagers or young adults grabbed the kid, dragged him to a fucking playground. Two of the teenagers or whatever held the kid down, while the other one strangled the kid's dog right in front of him. And this made international news, because this happened in the United States, and I got this news in Canada. So it was going around quite a bit. And there was a manhunt for these three teenagers or young adults, these three metalheads, that, in this town, these three vicious people were out there intentionally torturing a dog and making this kid watch as they fucking strangled this kid's dog. So any person who happened to fit the description of tall, white, skinny, long hair, dark clothing, anyone who was unfortunate enough to fit that description was getting, fingered by the cops. They were getting, hauled in or interrogated on the streets. There was a manhunt after these three people. But when all was said and done, it turns out this kid made the whole fucking thing up. He was the one that killed his own dog because he wanted to know what it was like to take a life. And then, since he didn't want to get in trouble for killing his own dog, he made up this story about these three teenagers or three metalheads or whatever killing his dog, and so he wouldn't get in trouble. So, it's one thing for a fake show to portray it, metalheads as murderers, because it's fictional. Everyone knows it's fake. But in the news, this was being given to people as fact, that this is what happened. These people are out there. They need to be captured and punished. If something like that were to happen in my town today, and some kid made a description, tall, skinny, long hair, dark clothing, that's me. Some kid could kill his dog and then give that description to the cops, and I could be the one getting hauled into the police station. I could be the one getting interrogated by the cops. It's shit like that can really have a negative impact on someone's life. Someone could lose their job or possibly go to fucking prison because of the false representation in factual media. So that's the type of false representation I have in media, when it's being provided as fact that someone did something wrong, when someone or the cops or whoever doesn't actually get the full story. They just jump to the nearest conclusion, right? So that's the type of thing I have, where someone's life can be ruined. It's one thing if someone, you're in high school and says, "You're a Satanist, ha ha ha." Oh no, some girls might not talk to you. It's another thing to be legitimately persecuted for a crime because someone lied, or just made shit up because they didn't want to get in trouble, or they knew that the cops would immediately jump on someone else because they're an easy target. So that's my view on representation of metal and metalheads in media. So, like my past videos, I either do an album recommendation or an album warning, and unfortunately this week it has to be a warning. It sucks even more because it's from a band I like, but this album is so bad, I cannot excuse it, and that is the album Scare Force 1 by Lordi. I know a lot of people hate Lordi to begin with. I always found that their albums were hit and miss. Either they're really, really good or really, really bad. And this one, unfortunately, is really, really bad. I hated this album. There was only like 3 songs on it that I liked. There's 13 songs on here. 3 were listenable. That means 3 good, 10 bad songs. Their costumes for this album looked pretty cool, but this album overall really, really sucked. I hated it. Hopefully their next album is a bit better. So that's it for today's video. If you like what you saw, don't forget to like and subscribe, and check out my past videos as well. And of course, don't forget to leave me a comment in the comment section letting me know what your opinions are on today's video. If you want to keep up with me on a more daily basis, you can follow me on Instagram, and I'll be putting that in the description section as I always do. Once again, guys, thank you very much for watching, and stay brutal.